In season 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, a new concept is introduced. Our protagonist, Daisy Johnson, then known by her hacker name Skye, and her antagonist, Raina, are trapped in an underground temple and are forced to go through a process called pterogenesis that turns them from human into something else. Inhuman. From that point onward, the trajectory of the show changes. The plot focuses on meeting, helping, and sometimes fighting Inhumans, while staying true to the core themes of the show. Found family, the intersection between magic and science, and helping people who cannot protect themselves. So you're a smart, handsome young woman with a go-getter attitude who watched my last video about how Marvel sucks major balls, and you agreed with me, which is why you, a charismatic, beautiful old man with a go-getter attitude, are now confused by this video. But Orby, didn't you just say that Marvel sucks shit majorly and we should burn it all to the ground? Yes, I did say that. And I stand by it. However, we're not talking about the MCU in this particular video. I'm a former Marvel fan who has seen every episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and considers it Marvel's best property. Yes, even better than Jessica Jones, because what the fuck was that third season? The reason I'm doing this video, even though I did swear off Marvel forever, is because I truly believe that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. exemplifies what the MCU could be if they actually cared about making good art. I do think you should watch this show because the characters are amazing, the technology is incredible, the twists are fucking awesome, and honestly, it's just like a really good show. Marvel has gone down the toilet in a lot of ways, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. shows there are people making good art, and they should be applauded for that. The world we live in cares more about profit than it does the consumers who make that profit, and anyone willing to stand up for amazing actors and brilliant writing and crew who are competent and know what they're doing and love what they're doing, and creatives who actually put their all into what they're doing, is the kind of person who should be making series and films. Also keep in mind that I made this video, I wrote this script before I swore off Marvel forever. I've tried to be as spoiler free as possible, but there are still spoilers in this video. So if you're okay with that, let's go, sluts. Just content warnings for this video. It includes discussions of transphobia, transphobic violence, and mental health issues. Daisy's powers emerge after she goes through the mist of pterogenesis. Although the mist kind of makes it sound pleasant, like a fine spring day, a mist of rain, a dusting of sediment, and not like she's being encased in rock and liquefied. In reality, her DNA is being rewritten. She's turning into something. An earthquake brings down the temple, which all of her fellow S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are inside. And considering Mack just got turned into like a killer zombie guy, it's fucking terrifying. We know something big is in the works, but they all escape and Daisy gets sent to an isolated medical unit to recover. While she's there are more earthquakes, and it's like, this shit again? Wasn't it terrifying enough the first time? And Daisy is naturally freaked out. I mean, I'd be freaked out if shit started happening to me Carrie style. Like if I got invited to prom, I'd run in the other direction, preferably away from any and all psychotic mothers. She quickly realizes that she's the one causing these earthquakes, which makes her freak out even more. And we don't know exactly what's happening, like Daisy doesn't know either, but we know that it's something big, and we know that it's happening because of Daisy. At one point, when she is unable to control the earthquakes, she knocks herself out with a tranquilizer gun. But it doesn't work. She's still causing the earthquakes. When her fellow agent and S.H.I.E.L.D. engineer Leo Fitz runs tests on her DNA, he finds that her DNA has been altered due to what happened in the temple. But when Fitz discovers this, he, like the legend that he is, doesn't tell anyone that's what happened, and instead leaves it up to Daisy to let everyone know when she wants to, in her own time. You know, it's possible that there are trans people who want like a chromosome change or a DNA change, but you know, I'm not really worried about that. I think if I had some cool lightning powers or could fly, that'd be fucking sweet. Eventually, Daisy does tell the others that she has powers and she's causing the earthquakes. And like the family that they are, they rally around her. And then over the seasons, she comes into her own as a fully fledged superhero. Because of the teragenesis and the mutation of her DNA, Daisy has an advantage over the other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. She's unique, she's special, she's unordinary. And honestly, she's just like a trans person, because we are all those things too. We see other Inhuman characters over the seasons, including Logan, Daisy's eventual love interest, and Jiaying, the leader of an Inhuman community that lives on a mountaintop of all places, because why not? They live in a temple that's supposed to protect them from the outside world and people who want to harm them, because there are people who want to harm Inhumans, as is a big plot point throughout season 3, when Inhumans become known to the general populace. So with that recap in mind, let's talk about the real story here. How the Inhumans in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are an allegory for trans people. I have a list. As my wife and I would say, let's row this meow. Number 1, the idea of something that separates a percentage of the population from the general population. This, of course, could be applied to a number of things like race, religion, sexuality, sports stars, I don't know. But in this instance, I'm using it for my own purposes, so shut up, sit down and listen. Inhumans are separated from humans by their powers, and trans people are separated from cis people by experiencing gender in a way that cis people are mentally, emotionally, and physically unable to. Trans people experience the world differently because of how we think, feel, and connect to our bodies and our gender identities, and how the world perceives us based on that. It can be internal or it can be external. Trans people who have been singled out on the basis of their looks know how detrimental it is to their well-being to be judged in that way. There is this stigma around, looking trans or passing, which I hope is diminished in trans communities, but is very much rampant within cis communities, particularly transphobes and trans exterminatory radical fascists, what I call TERFs. But even well-meaning allies can fall into the trap of treating us differently depending on how they view us or how they view us fitting into certain gendered stereotypes. The thing that separates trans people from Inhumans is that even cis people get misgendered and called by the wrong name and have transphobic rhetoric used against them. It's extremely short-sighted to say that cis people never get misgendered, because I watched 8 seasons of Scrubs in which Dr. Cox transphobically attacked JD every episode and called him by girls' names and called him a girl constantly. Honestly, a case could be made that JD is trans. And I'm making it now, JD is trans and Dr. Cox was just transphobic before transphobia was cool. The idea of separation is also something that is forced on us by fascists. Trans people are ostracized by society in various ways. Some by the government, by law, by the state, and others just by general shame. It comes down to things like not having gender-neutral bathrooms or forcing trans people to use a certain bathroom depending on what cis people think is between our legs. And then cis women get scared when trans men are in women's bathrooms. It's like you specifically put these laws in place to make men use your bathroom, and then you get scared that men are using your bathroom. Oh, the fucking irony. What did you expect? Separation also comes in the form of things like healthcare and sex education. Healthcare is a very precarious issue for trans people in many countries around the world. I know a lot about trans healthcare in places like America. I think in Australia it's a lot better. From what I hear from, my students, I had high school students last year, and I would talk to them about trans issues, and they would say that there's really no problem for a lot of them in the schools that they went to. I did online tutoring, so I talked to a variety of students from different areas, and I had some trans students as well, which was great to see that a lot of them were openly trans, at least to me and the other tutors that I worked with. I'm not sure exactly what the healthcare and sex education system is like in Australia right now, but considering like how dogmatic religious schools are in Australia, and how shit the education system is in America, and how transphobic Britain is generally, I don't hold a lot of hope for school-taught kids in the Anglosphere. Number 2 on my list is Fitz reassuring Daisy that she can come out on her own terms.
Your heart rate was recorded at almost 300 BPM.
That's very fast.
No. That's inhuman.
The term coming out originally applied to gays and bi people, but it also applies to trans people as well. It can be a big deal for some people and it can be nothing for others. Yeah, it wasn't until I met my wife that I realized how important to me it is being trans, and now it's a huge part of my identity. I went to a coming out party, which included live comedy, live music, and a drag show, and it was fucking awesome. It's really important to let people tell their stories on their own terms, and that includes coming out for trans people. There is this term called cracking someone's egg, and it means like to tell someone they're trans before they figure it out themselves, and it's very controversial in the trans community because the general consensus is that you shouldn't crack someone's egg. You shouldn't tell them that they're trans. And it's kind of like diagnosing someone in the comments. Like, you just have to trust that people know themselves better than you know them, and that people have to come to that realization on their own. Although for me personally, I kind of always wanted people to like tell me something that I didn't know. I really wish someone had told me earlier that I was a lesbian. Because it wasn't until I was like 26 that I realized I was a lesbian, even though I have obviously always been a lesbian. And it was like, it took someone literally spelling out the words for me, saying, "You're a fucking dyke," literally word for word, "You're a fucking dyke," for me to realize I was a lesbian. And it was very embarrassing to be like, realize that at 26 because someone told me, and I just didn't come to that realization myself. And I was like so glad that she did. This is my friend from Russia. She told me this, and it like awakened my life, my mind, my soul. And I kind of wish people had like told me that, and told me things about myself that were obvious to them but were very not obvious to me, you know. I mean, don't diagnose me in the comments. I know I have ADHD. I know I have autism. I also have a bunch of other things, so don't diagnose me in the comments. And I have had conversations with people I know, friends, where I've said like, you give off a really cool non-binary vibe, and it's led to some really great discussions. And I did accidentally crack someone's egg once. I asked them what their pronouns were, like a couple months into knowing them. I have also diagnosed people in the comments, which I feel really shit about. I don't do that anymore. Just trust that people know themselves better than you know them if you only watch a few videos of theirs. Trans people can usually tell when someone else is trans. It's just kind of common knowledge that you don't crack someone's egg. The cracking the egg analogy also ties into the show because there is a facility where Inhumans train after they become inhuman, or after they go through pterogenesis, that is called the cocoon. So cocoon, egg, butterfly, chicken, etc., etc. It just shows how much love Fitz has for Daisy, that he would refrain from saying anything about her transformation, even though he was as scared as she was. And generally people don't lie like that for other people, but it just goes to show how close their bond is, that he would do that. We're seeing a rise in transphobic hatred where people are being outed against their will, tested medically like Caster Semenya, even though as far as we know, she's cisgender, so she's not trans. People are being denied access to gender confirmation surgery and HRT, and then again, forced to use the wrong bathroom. There isn't a lot of love for trans people in the world, and most of the time cis people are real fucking assholes just for no reason. I don't want to see it. Well, then bitch, close your eyes. Look away. Number 3. That's not 3. Number 3. The war on Inhumans is a lot like the genocide that transgender people are currently undergoing. At least in the West, which is the part of the world I'm qualified to speak on because I live here. Cis people see trans people as a threat. We threaten the status quo, the boundaries between man and woman, and the world order. It's a natural instinct for people to be afraid of new things because that's how we've survived for so long. But I would also argue it's natural for people to be curious about the world. Self-expression is one of the most wonderful things about humanity. But a lot of the time people see self-expression that is different or unique and they run from it. To say that you have to love everyone from every walk of life is ridiculous to me. You don't have to like me, you know, you don't have to love me, you don't even have to respect me. Just don't come into my comment section spewing hatred. I'm not gonna pay you to do that. You're not getting any money, and shutting up is literally free. Harassing someone for something they can't change is literally primary school bullshit. Like, get over yourself. Why, yes, I did get the, what's it called? Stanley Cup Kmart $15 knockoff. And I drink one of these a day, sometimes more. It's summer, it's hot, I'm thirsty, and this bad boy, it quenches my thirst. The thirst quencher. Because we threaten the boundaries between genders, it calls into question our understanding of what makes a man or a woman. And that scares people. A lot of cis people tie their identity to their gender. They bulk up at the gym, they do yoga, they get breast implants or hair transplants or whatever the fuck bald people are doing nowadays. They pluck their eyebrows and wax their legs. They wear perfume or, what's it called? Cologne. Why did that take me so long to remember? They adhere to strict rules around femininity and masculinity because it feels right to them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But cis people are threatened by trans lives and trans existence, and that makes them do things like leverage their power in society to ban books, cancel drag and comedy shows, get people fired from their job, use the police to stop trans rights marches, and enact bills in Parliament and Congress that seek to eradicate trans people. In season 3 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, there is an organization that is set up to neutralize the alien threat of Inhumans and Terrigenesis. The ATCU, or the Advanced Threat Containment Unit, is run by Rosalind Price, and what it does is it captures Inhumans, puts them into comas, and sequesters them away where they can't hurt anyone or themselves. I was honestly shocked that they didn't kill them outright, but Rosalind admits that she wants to be able to find a cure because she thinks that Inhumans are in pain. And then in the next episode, Hydra has her killed. So even allyship towards Inhumans is dangerous. Honestly, I don't have proof of this, but if there was like some big conspiracy to wipe out trans people and it was run by like American politicians and the Koch brothers, I wouldn't be surprised. But considering all these people want is more money and they don't like care about bettering society or doing anything except getting votes and more money, and they're fucking incompetent as hell, I don't care. It doesn't scare me. I'm not worried about it. They can't kill us in any way that matters. Number 4, how being inhuman makes you different. The public are afraid of Inhumans because they're different. They have powers and abilities that set them apart from humans. While Inhumans need to undergo Terrigenesis to activate their powers, they are always Inhuman, even before they undergo Terrigenesis. And that's kind of the same as trans people, who are always trans, even before we come out and transition, although some people never transition. A lot of trans people struggle with the idea that we're not normal or that we're different. And this was especially prevalent before the rise of the internet, where there are, countless resources and countless ways to find community. If you feel like you're the only person in the world who has experienced something, that can be devastating. It can be the loneliest feeling in the world, regardless of whether it's true or not. But I love this community. I love trans people. I love watching movies made by trans people, reading books, reading poetry, everything that trans people create and come up with. Internet personality Mia Moore is currently working on a film called Again Again, about a woman who meets her younger self, her pre-transition self. It's in the stages of being finished, and that's really exciting. If you have any recs for like movies or books or anything like that, by trans people, for trans people, leave them in the comments. I'd love to check them out. But back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Daisy is an orphan who spent her childhood bouncing around from foster home to foster home and never got to have what she considered a real family. She didn't spend time anywhere long enough to actually build a connection with her foster families. She feels alone when she gets her powers because she doesn't know anyone else who is like her except for Raina, and they fucking hate each other. But eventually she finds connection with a group of Inhumans run by S.H.I.E.L.D. As the series goes on and she works more for S.H.I.E.L.D., she gets to recruit Inhumans into S.H.I.E.L.D., including Yo-Yo, or Alina Rodriguez, who becomes one of the main cast and lasts till the end of the show. Like, there's really nothing more important than connection. I really do think that the human experience is about finding connection. That's what we're looking for in every movie, every book, every poem. We're just looking to find connection in unlikely places. All stories are about connection. I've been a real shit to people in the past, and it's something that I'm still trying to work through. I was so awful for so long, and I hurt so many people, and it took meeting my wife and growing into a person who I actually like to be able to realize that I did hurt so many people, and I've done a lot of shitty things, but I don't want to hurt people anymore. I want to uplift people. I want to help people. I want to help this community, uplift this community. I really try and be as authentic as possible in these videos because this is how I express myself. I don't actually like filming that much, but I like editing, I like posting, I like talking to people in the comments. It makes my day when someone posts a nice comment on one of my videos. But I hope you have ways, or find ways, that you can express yourself and find joy. Number 5. The transition from human to inhuman sounds a lot like gender confirmation surgery to me. You get gassed with a mist, you undergo a process where you're immobilized, although not sedated, you bust out of your eggshell, and then you're inhuman. There's a plot in, I think, season 2 where a senator's brother gets stuck inside his eggshell for weeks, and then Simmons has to bust him out. He doesn't look different when he comes out, but he is different. He's changed, and that honestly to me sounds like gender confirmation surgery. When a trans person undergoes gender confirmation surgery, or GCS, it's not changing them as a person. It's allowing them to have the body that they want in order to express themselves fully as who they are. It's changing parts of them that are nobody else's business, and it's bringing them closer to the person they are supposed to be. Unfortunately, Terrigenesis is often an unwanted or even unknown thing happening to Inhumans. They don't know it's going to happen to them until it does, and even then a lot of them don't want it. And when it does, they don't have a say in it. Daisy's transformation was really scary for her until she got a hold of her powers. So I guess going through pterogenesis is more like realizing you're trans than it is like gender confirmation surgery. It's scary, overwhelming, and not something you can account for. Number 6, Daisy's birth name. For the first few seasons, Daisy uses the name Sky, which is a name she picked up and chose for herself after bouncing around from foster homes and becoming a hacker. When she gets to know her parents and their stories, she decides to go back to using her birth name, which she, never knew before she met her parents, to kind of feel more in touch with who she is and where she belongs. This mirrors the choice that a lot of trans people make to choose a different name than our birth names. And our birth names are referred to as dead names. And you shouldn't use someone's dead name when they have chosen a new name to use, such as in the case of like Elliot Page. He goes by Elliot Page now, that's his name, and you just don't refer to him by his dead name. It's that simple. A lot of trans people will use like the differently gendered name for their birth name, like such as Michaela to Michael or Gabrielle to Gabriel. It's interesting that Daisy does the opposite of what most people do. Daisy chooses her birth name. And my last point is that being trans is a superpower. Are you telling me you wouldn't want a superpower? There's literally nothing better than being trans. Trans people have unlocked the secrets of the universe and everyone else can just suffer. Oh, it's basic biology that there are 2 genders? Well, obviously you don't know about advanced biology. Anyone who's made it to the end of this video is a real one and does know about advanced biology. So leave your favorite Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. character in the comments. I love them all, obviously, but Robbie Reyes holds a special place in my heart. Oh my god, I love him so much. He should have ended up with... I could write a whole fucking thesis on why Robbie and Daisy should have ended up together. Like, a whole thesis. 45,000 words. I could do it. I'm not going to. Maybe I should. No, I won't. I might. No. I could, but I won't. Lastly, let's keep supporting Palestine. There are links in the description to buy eSIMs and menstrual products, as well as to the Palestine Film Institute, which I highly recommend you check out, and I'm going to check it out after this video because I haven't checked in this week. I hope you enjoyed this shorter video that will hopefully not get me massive amounts of hate comments, and I'll see you in the next one.